Hello and welcome to 7 Steps to an A in Math. Glad you are here. A little bit of background, my name is Sam Tormey. My math journey began in 7th grade when I failed Algebra 1. So if you are struggling in math in high school or middle school, do not worry, there is still hope. I ended up scoring top 5% GPA in my high school. I scored a 5 on the AP BC calculus exam. I missed one question on the math portion of the SAT, and I scored a perfect score on the graduate standardized test, the GRE. I ended up earning a Bachelor of Arts in Computational and Applied Mathematics from Rice University. And throughout college and up till today, I've amassed about 1,000 hours of tutoring math. And I'm a certified Texas teacher, and I taught 10th grade geometry at Braze Oaks Yes Prep in Houston, Texas. So today, 7 steps to earning an A in math. These are the 7 most common problems I have noticed throughout my teaching career that students encounter when trying to earn an A in math. It starts with the multiplication tables and it builds upon those. And so today we're going to cover these 7 ways in depth, and we're going to do a very deep dive into making sure that you understand these 7 principles so that you can earn an A in math. So who is this video for? Well, really it's for anyone in Algebra 1 or higher who is struggling or does not 100% understand math and wants to score higher in their classes and understand math. So I always like to start my presentations off with my favorite math problem. And yes, this is a math problem. I will present the solution at the end of the presentation, and it goes like this. A man is at his house. The man walks a mile south, a mile east, and then a mile north. The man is back at his house. The man sees a bear. What color is the bear? And yes, there is one solution to this and one correct explanation for the correct solution as well. So the first task is multiplication tables. And before we begin that, here's a joke. Which tool is best for math? The multipliers. Like a pliers, get it? Yeah. Okay, so now to really begin. So multiplication tables. You're going to want to learn your multiplication tables if you want to get an A in math. One of the first reasons is you're going to be able to solve problems faster and you're going to be able to solve them in your head. Also, a lot of people are learning how to solve math problems using the calculator, but you want to be able to check that the calculator is right, that you entered in whatever you put into the calculator correctly. And in order to check the calculator with a lot of these math problems, you have to know how to do multiplication tables. Also, another reason to learn your multiplication tables is because math starts with numbers. It starts with multiplication tables, but you have to be able to walk before you run. And what I mean by that is you learn how multiplication tables work in numbers, and then you learn how mathematical concepts work in numbers. And then once you learn the numbers, then you're able to extrapolate and go more abstract and learn how variables work, like x and y. And then once you learn how variables work, you learn how functions work, like x squared plus 2y equals 0. And then once you learn how functions work, you can take it to higher and higher and higher and higher, more powerful abstractions. But it starts by learning the multiplication tables, how the numbers work. You have to understand how these concepts apply to the numbers. So what's on this slide is 6 different examples of areas in math that you need to know multiplication tables. So this first one, arithmetic. So whenever you're multiplying or dividing big numbers like this, you're going to be able to break it down into smaller numbers and eventually into 12 by 12, into multiplication tables that are, into multiplication problems that are in the 12 by 12 multiplication tables that I want you to memorize. Also, my dad would always tell me, he said, you don't want to be the only person in a business table where if somebody says 8% of $9, we're going to charge 8% of $9 for tax or for insurance or for something, and the only one that doesn't understand what number you're talking about. Because that is a very real life situation where if you can't do 8% of $9 in your head, if you have no idea what that means because you don't know your multiplication tables, you can be sorely out of luck in terms of your business career by not by being the only person around the table that doesn't know what that means. Same thing happens in finance. Finance uses a lot of exponents. Whenever you're taking out a loan or whenever you're calculating interest, these are just basic examples of using exponents every day of your life. And exponents, to understand exponents, you have to know your multiplication tables. You have to know how multiplication works in order to understand exponents. Also, whenever you're doing algebra, be it algebra 1 or algebra 2, or if you're doing algebra in geometry or algebra in pre-calculus or algebra in calculus or algebra in differential equations, it goes on and on and on. You have to be able to factor trinomials or binomials like we have here. And in order to do that, you have to understand how the numbers work. So once you understand how the numbers work, these can eventually become variables. So it could eventually become, you could have x and y and z and different variables in here instead of these numbers. But in order to understand how to do that, it's highly recommended to understand how to do it with numbers first. And in order to do that, you need to know your multiplication tables. Same thing in geometry. So maybe you don't know how to do this, put this into the calculator. Geometry is kind of hard to put into a calculator. And so in order to do geometry by yourself or on pencil and paper or in your head, you have to know your multiplication tables. And also just other properties of numbers, like these are radicals. This is a radical 72, the square root of 72, and we're going to see exactly what I mean by that right now. So let's say you're trying to simplify the square root of 72, and if you're just don't worry if you're not at this point in math yet. It's not, you don't have to understand this right now. But there's two ways that you can do this. You can put this into the calculator, and you would get 8.485281372, and that would continue on forever in no pattern. But a lot of times that's not useful. A lot of times you need to know an exact answer and an answer that you can work on algebraically. So the other way to do it is using your multiplication tables. So square root of 72 is equal to square root of 36 times 2, because 36 times 2 is 72. 36 is 6 times 6. And then whenever you have a number multiplied by itself in the square root, you pull it out and it becomes 6 times the square root of 2. Okay, so this is just proving that you need to know your multiplication tables in order to get an A in math. If you don't, if this went over your head, if you're not there at this point in math yet, don't worry. We're going to start off with more with just the basics, the multiplication tables. Okay, so you should be able to know this. And the goal of today, this first section, is to memorize these 3 facts. That 9 times 6 is 54, 9 times 7 is 63, and 9 times 8 is 72. So when I grew up, I'm in my early 30s. When I grew up, first grade math was essentially memorizing multiplication tables. Today is a different time period. They put less emphasis on memorizing multiplication tables. They put more emphasis on learning how to calculate them, learning tricks for multiplying your multiplication tables, or using the calculator in order to do the multiplication tables. However, I am very grateful that I have memorized my multiplication tables for all the reasons I've said in the previous slides. I'm very, very grateful. And this is what I recommend. I recommend that you just memorize. Just memorize your 12 by 12 multiplication tables. It's a tried and true method. It's been happening for centuries, and memorizing your multiplication tables is just a fundamental building block of math. Now, like I said, you could come up with different tricks for these multiplication tables, especially the 9s have lots of tricks to calculating them. However, you will discover these tricks as you memorize. You'll discover them naturally. There's no reason I don't think you should rely on the tricks. You should rely on the memorization. There's not a lot of memorizing in math, but the 12 by 12 basic multiplication tables is something you should memorize. As you're memorizing them, you should play with the numbers. And when you play with them, it's not going to be difficult to discover the patterns. It's not going to be difficult to discover the tricks to calculating the 9 by 9 or the 9 by 12 the nines times tables. But memorizing them is going to come first. Should come first. The 12 by 12 multiplication tables, like I said, they're the fundamental building blocks to math. It's fundamental. Now, you could spend your entire life doing these tricks for calculating 9 times 6, or you could just spend the 5 minutes in this presentation and just memorize 9 times 6 equals 54. And how are we going to do that? Well, to memorize all your 12 by 12 multiplication tables, you could buy flashcards like these on Amazon. These cover 12 by 12 multiplication tables, and they're very, very tactile. You can actually touch them, and you can take them wherever you go, even when you don't have a computer. And you can just spend 15 minutes a day, maybe 8 times, and you would have them down for the rest of your life. Or you could go to timestables.com or another just free website. There's tons of them online, and look for flashcards or different games or programs to memorizing the 12 by 12 multiplication tables. This is just one example that I came up with for memorizing the 3 facts that I said earlier. So this is the type of rote memorization that I'm talking about. 9 times 6 is 54. 9 times 6 is 54. It can help to write, to actually write out. I wouldn't type it. Like, if you can avoid just typing in the answers, it's better to like use a pen or a pencil and write out the answers. Scientifically, they say that helps your memory. So 9 times blank equals 54. 9 times 6 is 54. Blank times 6 is 54. 9 times 6 is 54. You get the idea. 9 times 6 equals 54. Just memorize it. 9 times 6 equals 54. 9 times 7 equals 63. 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 9 times 8 equals 72. 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 Okay, once you've done that a few times, then you can switch it up. So 9 times 6, 54. 9 times 7, 63. 9 times 8, 72. 6 times 9 is going to be the same as 9 times 6. It doesn't matter what order they're in. So if you know 9 times 6, you know 6 times 9. And you know 6 times 9 is 54. 7 times 9 is the same as 9 times 7, is 63. 8 times 9 is the same as 9 times 8, 72. 7 times blank equals 63. 7 times 9 equals 63. What times 9 equals 54? 6 times 9 equals 54. 9 times 8 equals 72. And 6 times 9 equals 54. So this took about 2-3 minutes. If it takes you 45 minutes to memorize these 3 facts, it would be a 45 minutes well invested, I promise you, for your math career and for your business career and your finance career. Anytime you're doing numbers for the rest of your life, this investment will pay back, because you're not going to have to be calculating them every single time, and you'll be able to understand. Like I said, you're going to walk before you run. Your numbers before variables, before functions, before higher abstractions. Numbers is the first thing you need to do in math. So multiplication tables are essential. Now here's just 3 examples of how memorizing these 3 facts can help you in higher problems. So for example, 9 times 14. 14 is not on the 12 by 12 multiplications table. However, we can break down 14 into 7 times 2. 7 times 2 is on the multiplications table. So 7 times 2 is 14. 14 is 7 times 2. Okay, and now that we've broken that down this way, 9 times 7 is the problem that we just memorized. 9 times 7 is 63. So 9 times 7 times 2 is the same as 63 times 2. And 63 times 2 is much easier to calculate than 9 times 14. 63 times 2 is 126. So that's one example of how you can take bigger numbers like 14 and break them down into the 12 by 12 building blocks of multiplication tables. Here's another problem that I had on the previous slide. 8% of $9. 8% of $9 is the same, as we'll see in percent problems. 8% is the same as 0.08. Of means multiply, and 9 is $9. So 8% of $9 is 0.08 times 9. 0.08 times 0.08 is 0.01 times 8. And now again, we're back to the same multiplication tables that we just memorized. 9 times 8 is 72. And then 72 times 0.01 is 0.72, and that's 72 cents. So 8% of $9 is 72 cents. Now you're not going to sound like a fool when you're sitting around the business table and somebody says, we need to take 8% of $9. You'll know 72 cents. Okay, here's another problem. Earlier we did multiplication of bigger numbers. We can also do division of bigger numbers. Okay, so 540 is the same as 10 times 54. If 6 times blank equals 54, if 6 times 9 equals 54, then 54 divided by 6 is 9. So back to this, 54 divided by 6 is 9. So that's just an example of how multiplication tables actually teaches you how to do division of bigger numbers. And then 10 times 9 is 90, and that's the answer. So 540 divided by 6 is 90, and we did that because we knew that 6 times 9 is 54, which, yeah. Okay, now you try. You can pause the video. Here's just more examples, more mix-up problems of the 9 times 6, 9 times 7, and 9 times 8. Take as long as you need. I would take about 3 to 4 minutes and make sure you get all these right. So go ahead and pause the video. Okay, and here's the solutions. Okay, now for your final test. 7 times 9, 63. 9 times 8, 72. 6 times 9, 54. And I hope you never ever for the rest of your life forget these 3 facts. And then eventually, I hope for the rest of your life you never ever forget all the 12 by 12 multiplication tables. And that's the first step preventing people from scoring an A in their math class. So that's the end of this video. If you want to see points 2 through 7 or are interested in one-on-one tutoring, let me know. Just send me an email, samueltorme2@gmail.com. And thank you for watching. I hope to see you soon. Bye.